Well, I said in my comments that I wasn't going to believe it until it was official, and now it is. Mick Foley is coming to TNA. I don't know what he'll be doing, and I don't think anyone does yet, but this definitely gets a buzz going about TNA, and it couldn't come at a better time with Bound for Glory right around the corner. And it also gives you another reason to order No Surrender, because that's probably when Foley's going to debut. I don't see why he wouldn't, since they already let the cat out of the bag on the website. And it would be a great treat for the Canadian fans. I mean, it would make a really good first impression on them, which would be a good idea if TNA is planning to hold more pay-per-views up north in the future. Anyway, as for Impact this week, this was a better show than last week. They got back to business after the last show, where I think they pretty much just threw up their hands and devoted like the whole 2 hours to just hyping up the video game, which I have not played yet, for those of you who asked me. The show was pretty decent overall. I think they managed to hype up most of the pay-per-view card effectively, except for that tag title match and the X Division title match. They weren't addressed. And the thing is, they could have easily made time for those two feuds on this show, and this goes back to what I said last week about effective time management. The one part of the show I really did not like was this Beautiful People beauty pageant thing. It was 3 segments, but it could have easily been trimmed down to 1 segment. First of all, okay, look, if you're going to have Taylor, or any wrestler for that matter, do something like this that's totally against their character, you need to at least have them cut a promo explaining why they're doing it. Just have Taylor say that she's really not into this beauty pageant thing, but she's going to do it anyway to beat Angelina at her own game. That's all you need. And they could have easily done this last week instead of having the Beautiful People cut 2 promos. You know, just have them cut 1 and then let Taylor respond to it. As for the pageant itself, oh boy. Look, this thing was what it was. You guys all saw it, and we're probably all thinking the same thing, so I don't think I need to add that much. What I will say is that instead of a beauty pageant that pretty much completely goes against what the Knockouts division is supposed to stand for, which TNA has gone out of their way to point out, mind you, couldn't they have just had some kind of in-ring confrontation? I mean, have Angelina come out with a mic and say, back when I was the Queen Diva in Deep South Wrestling, they brought in some gawky little punk off the street to try to steal all my thunder. And this Sunday, that same little bitch is going to know exactly what that feels like, because at No Surrender, in front of her friends, in front of her family, I'm going to take her title, I'm going to take her dignity, and there isn't a damn thing she can do about it. And then Taylor comes out with a mic and she says, Angelina, you're damn right I stole your thunder, and it was my pleasure to do it. You were a stuck-up bitch in Deep South Wrestling, and you haven't changed at all. And No Surrender, I'm going to do to you exactly what I did to you then. I'm going to kick your ass from this ring all the way back to that strip club TNA found you in. And then they brawl, security separates them, and it's over and done, 1 segment. And then you have 2 extra segments that you can use to hype up the other 2 title matches. See how easy that was? Again, effective time management, TNA. I can't stress enough how important that is. Anywho, the rest of the show I thought was pretty good. Overall, the Sting stuff continues to be really compelling. He did the Karen Zangle interview where he elaborated on some of the things he's been saying for the last few weeks. And this was probably the best Karen Zangle yet, because for once they didn't turn it into some kind of sideshow attraction. And they kept the focus on Sting. And what I really liked here is that they used the Motor City Machine Guns' recent heel turn to help Sting elaborate his point. Now, does this mean that the Guns are being incorporated into this storyline? God, I hope so. It's way past time TNA did something with those guys. And it would make perfect sense in a storyline about how Sting feels that the young guys have no respect for the veterans when you've got Alex Shelley, who used to follow Sting and his kids around with a video camera. So, let's hope that happens. Samoa Joe's segment was also very good. He beat 3 guys in a row to look strong going into the pay-per-view. Tomko showing up was a nice surprise, if you haven't read the spoilers. And this is the way Samoa Joe needs to be portrayed. Notice the difference in crowd reactions he got in this segment versus last week when he confronted Sting and the audience turned on him. When you portray Joe like a hothead who complains and yells at people all the time, he loses all his fan support. But put him in the ring and let him kick someone's ass and you get the reaction you want. All you have to do is let Joe do what he does best. It's not rocket science, TNA. And then, to end the show, there was another confrontation with Joe and Sting. I like that they had Joe in the rafters this time, and that he got to kind of pull one over on Sting finally with the Jeff Jarrett reveal. And they've kept Jarrett's role in this thing mysterious enough up until now so that you don't really know how he's going to figure into this feud. So that makes 2 big X factors going into No Surrender, Jeff Jarrett and Mick Foley. And as for No Surrender, keeping in mind what I said earlier about how this is probably going to be a pay-per-view to just get the ducks in a row for Bound for Glory, this is still an interesting card on paper. First, you got Taylor versus Angelina. Outside of the beauty pageant crap, this match has good build-up. Angelina's been floating with the title picture for a while, and she's got a much better chance of winning the belt now with Gail Kim gone. I think Taylor's probably going to keep the belt, probably going to keep the title until Bound for Glory, but I'd look for Angelina to make some kind of statement in this match. Prince Justice Brotherhood versus the Rock and Raven Faction. Oh, God. You know what this is? This is, we're about to have our first pay-per-view in Canada, and we need a way to get Eric Young on the show. That's all this is. It's a stupid feud. It means nothing. God willing, it'll only last this month. But there's good wrestlers in it. I mean, it won't be a bad match. It'll probably just end up being a comic relief type of thing, and I don't know how kind the Canadians are going to be to it, but whatever. ODB versus Awesome Kong, Falls Count Anywhere. They both do really well in this type of matchup. Plus, you'll probably see Saeed and Roxy get involved in this thing somehow. Jay Lethal versus Sanjay Dutt ladder match. You know, I was a lot more forgiving of this storyline than most people were. I mean, even Val being torn between the two guys, I could kind of sort of buy into because of the way they set things up when they were laying the groundwork. They had me until Hard Justice. Black tie brawl and chain match? What the hell is that? How are we supposed to take either of these guys or this feud seriously after a match that ridiculous? Having said that, this ladder match will be awesome, even if the storyline surrounding it is falling apart and the stipulation of the winner gets Val is stupid as hell. But if you just try to enjoy it for the great match that it'll be, it will deliver that much. AJ Styles versus Frank Trigg. They've been teasing this one for a few months now. This is going to be another one of those quote-unquote MMA-style fights. I'm not sure how they'll do it. The last one didn't really come off as well as TNA wanted it to. Hopefully now they know that, so now they know what changes they need to make. And I'm interested to see what Frank Trigg does here. I know he's been training to get in the ring for a while now, so it'll be cool to see what he does in this type of environment. Then you've got 3D versus Abyss and Matt Morgan. You got Beer Money versus LAX. You got Petey Williams versus Consequences Creed versus Abdul Bashir. All those matches have good build-up. And then the main event speaks for itself. You got Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle versus Booker T versus Christian Cage. That's the best pay-per-view main event TNA has put together in a while. And if Mick Foley does debut on this show, this is probably where it'll be. Plus, you've got Jeff Jarrett and the question of what he's going to be up to. So there's definitely stuff to look forward to here. It's a good show on paper. It's TNA's first pay-per-view in Canada, and you saw that promo on TNA's YouTube page. All the Canadians on the roster are beyond psyched to be wrestling on a pay-per-view in their home country finally, and you know they're going to pull out all the stops and bust their asses to put on a great show. So, order No Surrender. See you next week.